Let's now bring in Corbin Trent. Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez is former comms director and former Bernie Sanders campaign strategist, and Mark Bednar, Congressman Kevin McCarthy's former head of comms and former comms director for Sean Duffy. Great to have you both with us. I guess I should probably begin with you, Corbin. Listen, this is one of those situations where there's no easy answer except for the obvious answer. What happens now? And if you're the Democrats, not just in Minnesota, but all over the nation, how problematic might this get?
I mean, I think fraud is fraud, and if you commit fraud against the government or anybody, you go to jail. I think that's what happens next, hopefully, and it seems like that's what's going to be happening next. I don't think this is a Democrat or Republican problem, though. This is a widespread problem of fraud and abuse. And largely, it's something that exists in the private sector. You know, the government writes the checks, and then the private sector sort of uses the money in any way they feel comfortable doing. And, taxpayers are left with a bill. You look at healthcare, for example. We spent $5.4 trillion last year alone on healthcare. I mean, try finding a YouTuber that can go out and find out how United Healthcare is wasting our money. It's not something that's going to be easy. So I think, this is a case of the system sort of functioning, the fourth estate, which is a YouTuber with a channel out there finding some fraud and bringing it to light. I think that's great. But, this is something that's in the trillions of dollars. We're wasting money in every sector, whether it's housing, healthcare, education, and we got to get, it's got to be taken under control. I think fraud's fraud that needs to be found and dealt with.
I think fraud is actually the right answer. However, Mark, I think there is still a political angle here, and the reason I suggest that is because Tim Walz, the governor of the state of Minnesota, has a responsibility to safeguard the resources of his fellow Minnesotans, to say nothing of the fact that federal money was also involved in this circumstance, and it seems to be that they were also sort of sending money off to, I saw a bunch of donations for ACT Blue. I mean, who knows if there is a bigger nexus here? Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, Kevin, the indictment across an array of entities here. First of all, the media for not even remotely pretending to care about this being an issue. Secondly, Governor Walz with his stewardship of the state. But thirdly, and I think most importantly, and with the furthest extension into the future, this really is an indictment against Kamala Harris's political judgment. Vetting somebody for the vice presidency, that's a big job. You need to be really thorough. So did they actually vet Tim Walz's stewardship of the state of Minnesota? What did they find? Or did they not care at all? Should she run for president again? She's going to have to explain to voters, donors, the media about her judgment and why she's incapable of, choosing someone who's not overseeing something as horrible as what's going on right here, right now.
Corbin, I give you credit.
But I mean, this is something, though, where, from my understanding, Tim Walz tried to stop payments to a lot of these facilities. And then they were sued by the facilities. They went to court, and the court compelled them to pay them. I mean, we're making this into a political football, like we do every single thing that's happening. And the problem is that this is a system-wide problem. It doesn't matter if it's the Democrats, Republicans, it's corporations, it's private entities that are coming out there that are taking money out of our pockets, taking money out of our grandkids' pockets, and then running off to the bank with it. This is not like a Somali immigrant problem. This is a problem with our system.
Well, I think you could certainly argue, given that this is primarily happening in one community in particular at a fairly large scale, that obviously bears investigating. But I think the broader question becomes, at what point does the buck stop with the governor of the state of Minnesota? And that's what I would ask you, Mark, and then Corbin, you can wrap us up.
Well, that's why, first of all, it's a great reminder why it was so important for President Trump and Vice President Vance to win, lest you have Tim Walz actually #2 in line for the presidency in office right now. Yeah. But this is why it's really important for Republicans to actually make the argument that they should be able to control and expand their majority. Speaker Johnson, leader Whip Emmer, and congressional investigators, they should do a press event outside of the Leering Center in Minnesota today. Not only to nationalize the issue, but also make Democrats have to actually answer for what is going on here, make them answer for what they've been defending all along.
The Leering Center, a reference to the fact that the letter N was missing from the signage out in front of one of these daycare centers, which apparently didn't have any kids in at the time of the video. Corbin, 15 seconds.
I will agree with the FBI director on this. This is the tip of the iceberg. Last year alone, Nancy Pelosi's stock portfolio went up by 54%. The market was, I think, 25%, so she outperformed by double. This year, in a few months, the president of the United States has more than doubled his net worth. There is absolutely corruption that goes down to the core of our government, that goes down to the core of our private industries, and we need to root it out. But what we need are representatives in our government, in our state governments, in our federal government that are willing to do the hard work to piss the people off to get it done.
Right.
And so far, that's what we're lacking.
Somebody's going to have to pay for this, and I don't mean just financially. Somebody has to be prosecuted and arrested and sent off to jail if you've been stealing billions of dollars from the American taxpayer, and it's happening in particular communities, not just in Minnesota, by the way, but also in Ohio and Maine and other places, Washington State.
California.
It's going to, yeah, absolutely. It's going to bear, I think, a much, much closer examination. We'll see where this all goes. I did read what Kash Patel said earlier.
Maybe they should just be government-run healthcare centers instead of private.
Yeah, I don't know about that either. Corbin and Mark, thank you both for your time today. I appreciate that.